subject that we announced. That is the police complaints authority accuses top cop of violating act. So let me read some part of the report as carried by Stabrook News. And this is the police complaints authority. And they say and I'm going to read excerpts, can't read out the whole thing, and we're going to discuss and try to educate and enlighten our students. And I hope that the policemen, I know a lot of them listen, and the police officers are going to listen to what is being said here, because I have lots of information to give in respect of this. And this is outside of what the complaints authority said. And Stabrook News is saying that, and this is a yesterday article, in a scathing report, the said chairman of the police complaints authority. Well, again, for teaching, there's no chairman of the police complaints authority. There is a complaints authority. So Stabrook News is saying the chairman, but Mr. Ramlal is not the chairman of the police complaints authority. Mr. Ramlal is a complaints authority, right? So it said the authority justice retired William Ramlal has accused police commissioner Clifton Nikin acting. Well, the acting come the wrong place too, of flagrantly violating the governing act, and recommended that President Irfan Ali put a stop to it. It goes on to say reference was made to files done by the police concerning the deaths of 4 persons involving police ranks, which were never sent to him for investigation as mandated under sections 13-14 of the Police Complaints Authority Act. It goes on to say Ramlal in the report said, and it's quoted here, these matters were all investigated by the police in flagrant violation of sections 12, 13, and 14 of the said act, and then later sent to me for my report to be done pursuant to section 15 of the said act, which requires me to send this report to the Director of Public Prosecutions. It goes on to say that this report can only be done if I supervise the respective investigations. More to say. The top cop, when contacted, this is what you say now, the top cop, when contacted by this newspaper for a comment, promised to respond, but up to press time had not done so. No response will be forthcoming, Stabrook News. So don't hold your breath. No response will be forthcoming. It goes on to say, in deciding whether or not to prosecute any member for any offense pursuant to the complaint or information under Section 12, the DPP must regard the statement of the Police Complaints Authority. Then it says the commissioner has never contacted nor consulted the authority on any of these matters, and the commissioner is statutorily obligated, mandated to do so. That is Mr. Ramlal said that. And then he goes on, let me read some more, he goes on. There were few instances where members of the force were criminally charged but are still on duty rather than being interdicted in keeping with the force's standing orders. Of the 17 members of the force against whom disciplinary charges were recommended, no complaint was heard by the Police Discipline Authority in accordance with the Police Discipline Act or the Police Complaints Authority Act. Against this background, Justice Ramlal concluded that the police force is covering up the wrongdoings of the ranks. And here, let me do the last part. Listen to this part carefully, student, because I'm going to set examination on this part. Ramlal said that his investigations under Section 8 and 12 of the Police Complaints Authority Act has caused him to interview over 300 police ranks, from senior superintendent of police to rural constables, inclusive of community policing, of community police. And hear what he says. This is being quoted here. These interviews have established that not one police rank showed knowledge of the force's standing orders in its entirety or even in a substantial way. Likewise, all of these ranks have shown very little knowledge of the fundamental rights of all citizens, which are clearly written in Articles 138 to 153 of the Constitution. Ramlal said. He added that these ranks have shown that they do not have a working knowledge of the laws, of the key laws, such as the Summary Jurisdiction Offences Act and the Administration of Justice Act, the Evidence Act, and the Sexual Offences Act. I will quote no more. This is damning. This is a scathing report because Mr. Ramlal, very former judge and very respected judge, is saying that he interviewed during the course of his work over 300 ranks, and it's not constable. He said from senior superintendent all the way down to these neighborhood policing that they call them, and none of them, the senior superintendents and all these people who he interviewed have any knowledge of the forces standing order in its entirety or in a substantial way. And then he goes on to say, likewise, these people get out knowledge of the fundamental rights of citizens. Now, in terms of that, I have been speaking about this time and time again. I have been speaking about it time and time again, the Police Complaints Authority. And let me bring in Mr. Conway to make some comments, and then I will come back. Mr. Conway, I'm sure you would have seen this report from Mr. Ramlal. I'm sure you would have read it. I'm sure you would have studied it. Let me hear what you have to say about it.
Yeah, let me try to put things in proper context. The Police Complaints Act number 9 of 1989. I think President Desmond Hoyt was the person who brought this into action. And I think he borrowed quite a lot from the British system, from the Home Office, where people were saying, hey, the police shouldn't really investigate themselves. They should have an independent body to deal with it. Hence, we had the Police Complaints Act. And part of it saying the provision of this act shall be in addition to and not in degradation of the Police Discipline Act. So it doesn't change this. It doesn't change anything that is in the Police Discipline Act. And also Section 8.1 saying that a reasonable person who have reasonable grounds to believe that a member of the force is guilty of any misconduct can make a complaint to the Police Complaint Authority, either in person or by registered mail, the case may be. And the Act is very, very clear. There are certain sections in the Act that Mr. Ramlal complaining that must go to the police service, to the Police Complaints Authority for the chairman to supervise the investigation. Section 12, we talking about Section 12 dealing with the death of persons. If the police were responsible or they cause the death of any person, the police has got to send a report to the Complaints Authority, and the Complaints Authority has got to supervise that investigation. And this part of what Justice Ramlal is saying. Perhaps you might give more details. And it also mentioned some other areas like assaults committed by alleged community police, doing bodily harm. This Section 48. Section 47 deal with assault. Section 49 talk about assault causing actual body harm. And Section 50 talk about unlawful wounding and felonious wounding, various forms of wounding. So these things are mandatory, that certain offense allegedly committed by police. The commissioner of police, I gotta send a statement to the Complaints Authority, and the Complaints Authority will supervise. We're talking about deaths, we're talking about assault, we're talking about doing bodily harm by wanton misconduct, assault causing actual bodily harm, unlawful wounding, that those must go. I remember something last year where a High Court judge set a policeman free because he was charged with a murder, and there was no evidence to show that the statutory requirement was dealt with, where the Police Complaints Authority supervise the investigation. And we have a whole long list of cases where the police, perhaps through the OPR, did their own investigation, and then now they're sending the report to the Complaints Authority for him to rubber stamp. And then I want to know what's really going on with the executive leadership team of the police, of the police when these matters are reported, they don't be discussed at the executive leadership team meetings, and somebody won't, or the traffic the crime chief won't say, hey, why we got to inform the um the complaints authority, or other members will not say, hey, by this thing I got to the police complaints authority for him to supervise, or even the OPR who by now, or the major crime unit who conducting those investigations, they don't know that they gotta send this thing to me. So I'm like, or they just don't care. So many breaches taking place, and even well the breaches of discipline, where discipline there are breaches of discipline. The chairman, let me sorry, I don't want to behave like Starbuck News, where the complaint authority would have to send the matter to the commissioner of police for investigation to be done in accordance with the Police Discipline Act, which says that every alleged commission of the breach of discipline shall be investigated as soon as practicable by a member of the force not below the rank of a sergeant and of a higher rank than a member of the force who was alleged to have committed offense. And then they would send it back to the to the complaint authority, and he would put his comments. They can't take any action unless the comments from the complaint authority is there, and the matter has to be sent also to the DPP with the complaints authority comments, and those things must be taken into action before any disciplinary action is taken. So the thing is clear: certain criminal offenses listed on this act must be supervised by the complaint authority. And in terms of disciplinary matters, the authority will send it for the police, and it must be investigated by a member of the force not below the rank of a sergeant and of a higher rank than a member of the force who has committed offense. And the report of the investigating officer must be sent to the complaints authority for its comments, and he will send it back and recommend what action to be taken either to the commissioner or the DPP. But perhaps those things have gone through the window. And in addition to that, maybe there's no training going on in relation to certain issues. In my days, I remember when I was, I don't like to blow my own trumpet, but I have to. When I was a force training officer, I used to send through what you call half yearly instruction class, where every once a week, at least for our certain subjects has to be discussed. And Paul, I remember when you were at TSU, you used to send it part way dealing with drill and musketry. I don't know what's going on with the thing that it, and you as the station sergeant had to send a report to the commander, and the commander had to send it to headquarters and warn. And if the command, if the station sergeant didn't do any training, sorry for him. But I don't know what's going on. Perhaps all those things have gone through the window, Paul.
Yeah, it's a total breakdown, especially with that disciplinary system. And I have some notes here to mention it. So, but let me say this. Let me say this. The complaints authority reported that the man who sits in the chair there is violating the law. He's not, and there's a complaints authority act. But that is not the only violation. We spoke on this program. I spoke on this program where the constitutional rights of even members of the force are violated with impunity. And I'm going to give you some examples because I know sometimes people come and say, "Oh, you talk and you get facts and so on." But let me tell you, because Article 38 G3 of the Constitution of the Cooperative Republic of Ghana says, and let me quote it here. It says, "No public officer shall be subject to sanctions of any kind without due process." Let me read that back. No public officer shall be the subject of any sanctions of any kind without due process. And we have the situation here where the man who sits in the chair last year, July, you had summarily dismissed people, no due process, no presumption of innocence. And I refer specifically here to the 3 policemen who were charged following the death of Quindon Bacchus: Sergeant Damian McLennan, Lance Corporal Christophe de Nabriga, and Lance Corporal Thurston Simon. Those persons were alleged to be involved in some way or the other with the killing of this young boy, Bacchus, Quindon Bacchus. They are charged, one man for murder, the 2 others for perverting the course of justice and something else. And on the day they appeared in court, I think it would have been the 5th of July, something like that, they're dismissed from that date. No presumption of innocence, no due process, just dismissed. Violation of their constitutional rights. And then later on, or then this year, we had a case again. And again, I call in the thing, Constable 23717 Walker in May. Constable 23258 Smith in April. Constable 25484 McCalmont in April. And what were the sins? If you recall, they had an incident where an officer, according to the commander, they said the officer said that he misplaced his 9mm pistol. They're saying that the officer misplaced his 9mm pistol. Somehow, they claim that these stringy ranks from Barbies, this is New Amsterdam Barbies, were implicated. And again, without any due process, they were summarily dismissed. So it is good for the Complaints Authority to report in respect to the violation of the Police Complaints Authority Act, but the Constitution as well is being violated and nothing has happened. And from all indication, the president is comfortable with that because the president said the man is extended to a date to be disclosed later. So he's going to be there forever. So all of these violations, and again I say, and these are only ones that I call, there are others as well. There are others as well. Clear violation of the Constitution, clear violation of relevant laws, and they are comfortable with that. They are comfortable. And I say, perhaps the president is comfortable because the president himself has been accused of violating the Constitution, including when he appointed the very person that was the allegation. I think the matter is still before the court. So I think they can relate to these type of violations. So the Constitution don't mean anything for some people. Don't mean anything for some people. Violate it with impunity. And so and some people say they know that Mr. Ramlal has reported, watch very soon they're gonna change it, they're gonna move it, right? I'm reading a comment here from the problem, said that the problem with insulating his appointment under the necessity doctrine is it opened the door to do as you like, to do as you like culture, and it will be protected by the de facto doctrine. I agree. And that is what Selvin is saying here. You're appointed under the de facto doctrine, and then what happened? The man doing all kind of things, and it was known even before he was appointed that the man didn't know what's going on, but they're comfortable with that. And let me say further, and as Mr. Conway made the point, and I'm referring to the statement by the Complaints Authority, but the lack of knowledge, we have been saying this all along. There's no training, no proper training that is going on. No proper training that is going on at any level. So what are you going to have? Problem, you talk about instruction class. Back in the day, those instruction classes were held by the person in charge of the station because they had the knowledge. Headquarters, as you rightly pointed out, will identify subjects for every week. Most of them Saturday morning. This is going to be the subject for this week. And so it was uniform around the force. So you had some confidence that these subjects were addressed at the various